Professor Grammatica, and we are going to talk about my very favorite dental hygiene instruments today, the Universal Curette. So the Universal Curette is a periodontal instrument that can be used both supra and subgingivally. It can be used in the anterior and posterior regions, and it will be used to remove small and medium-sized deposits. So there are some unique design characteristics that you should be aware of for the Universal Curette. First is it has a rounded back. It also has a rounded toe. These two features allow the instrument to be used subgingivally. There are two cutting edges per working end, and it is semicircular if we cross-section the blade. Please highlight, circle, underline, or star the fact that it is semicircular in cross-section. I guarantee you, every year on the National Board exam, they will choose one or two of your instruments to ask you what shape it is in cross-section. Now the face of the blade is perpendicular to the lower shank in a universal curette. So this means that your two cutting edges are level with one another. Here we have curette A and curette B. Curette A is your Columbia and curette B is your Barnhart. So curette A, the Columbia, has a short lower shank and working end, whereas curette B, your Barnhart, has a long lower shank and a longer working end. So comparing the shank length, here we see the Columbia in the posterior, and we're doing this to show you the depth that it can reach below the gum line. So the Columbia has a shorter lower shank, and this means it's limited to use within normal sulci or within shallow pockets. Here we have the Barnhart, which has a longer lower shank, and you can see that it can reach much further than we could on the Columbia. So the Barnhart's going to be used on root surfaces and within deeper pockets. So now we're looking at the working end length. So the working end of the blade of the Barnhart is longer, and this makes it automatically a better choice for the mesial and distal surfaces of molar teeth. If we were to substitute the Barnhart and put a Columbia in this photo, what would happen is the blade would not even reach the midline, let alone go past it. And we're doing this to make sure that we have cross-hatching to get to each and every section of the tooth to remove all of the calculus. So in order to place the instrument and use the correct working end, because there's two different working ends, we're going to use the lower shank as our visual cue. I would like you to place the instrument interproximal between molars, and I want you to look and make sure that your lower shank is parallel to the distal surface. Now the functional shank should always go up and over the tooth. I'm going to show you what it looks like for an incorrect working end. Here that lower shank is not parallel, it is horizontal. And the functional shank is down and around the tooth, not up and over. So in essence, what's actually happening here is the face of the blade, not the blade edges, is what's in contact with the tooth. This is not going to remove any deposit off of the tooth. We need to have that angulation so that the edge of the blade can scrape up the side of the tooth to remove the calculus. So if you need something to help you remember, I want you to think posterior, parallel, shank, up and over. This is what it looks like when we use correct angulation to scale the teeth. So they have placed the instrument right interproximal. We see that the shank is parallel to the distal of the tooth. We see that the shank is up and over the tooth. And what's important is there's a little bit of an angle going. So it's actually angled towards the tooth surface that we're scaling. And that's in order to make sure that that blade is in contact with the tooth. And we've got about the toe, third, toe, 2/3 in contact with the tooth. So don't forget that your universal curettes are a solid choice when instrumenting. You have many to pick from, and don't forget to utilize this great tool. Buttons hopes that you love your universal curettes as much as I do. See you in clinic.